Well, still on the AfriForum versus the EFF hate speech matter, we're joined by political analyst Levy Ndou to give us his perspective. Mr. Ndou, good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time. I suppose it's unavoidable in a case like this to not expect to be confronted with the full nuance of our country's history and how that history applies to a post-democratic South Africa.
Evening, Kathy. Good evening to the viewers at home. I think supporting what you're saying, firstly, one would ask a question that says, was this case necessary? Is it necessary to have this kind of an issue at the Equality Court? I say so because this is not for the first time that we're having this kind of a matter having taken to the court. Back in 2012, it was the case, and there was a decision taken. But what I like about this matter is that we are able to be reminded, all of us as South Africans, about the deep divisions that we had, which were informed by race, and also at the same time that the project that was started by Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu has not been completed. The project of reconciliation, the project of the Rainbow Nation, and the project of bringing people together. I think somewhere, somehow, South Africa lost that project. But at the same time, this situation, it's being able to help young South Africans about the deep hatred that still exists amongst the South Africans, but also at the same time that our people, to a certain extent, should go very petty and want to take matters that will not require to go to court. And that talks a lot about ourselves as South Africans.
When you look at the arguments that have been, brought forward before the court today, we've just heard in that package by Mbali, the AfriForum lawyer talking about the trauma that is experienced by white farmers when they hear the song Kill the Boer, when they hear that lyric, and Julius Malema juxtaposing that against the trauma of black people when they have to sing the stem. This is a case, of course, that could have implications far broader than just the Kill the Boer song. Do you think so?
It has much broader implications in the sense that there is history to the song. What I also liked yesterday was the time when the video clip in which former President Mbeki was speaking, explaining where these songs are actually coming from. And I think from that clip, Mr. Malema also added on what former President Mbeki to say that what is being interpreted to be the cause of death in South Africa does not necessarily come from the singing of the songs. It actually has its own other reasons why people are being killed or the issues that we're actually facing in society. For me, this is about interpretation. And what I see is that it appears as if when people are singing struggle songs, they tend to be interpreted differently by those that are not part of those groupings. And I think what would have been proper and what should actually happen as we move forward would be to understand the context within which certain things are done, certain songs are being sung. But also equally for me, I think it's about extending hands and doing our best to teach South Africans about our history, where we come from, our rituals, our culture and tradition, so that these kind of interpretations should never exist among South Africans. Of course, there are a lot of other interpretations that those that are so-called blacks in South Africa have towards certain culture and certain races. the disadvantage or the situation is that they don't mostly take these issues to courts because in their background, they are not used to taking matters to courts. They've been oppressed for quite some time. And what they do is that they actually exercise their displeasure and their dissatisfaction through songs, through chanting, and through protests and strikes.
When we look at this case, farm murders have become a central point around which AfriForum is basing its argument, saying this song directly has an impact on the rate of farm murders that we see because it galvanizes people to go after, effectively, Afrikaans or white farmers. So with that literal interpretation, the courts, of course, are also going to have to consider the case that is being made forward and those who do say that they are being traumatized or re-traumatized when they hear the song. Is this an issue that can be resolved through the courts?
Well, I think this issue can be resolved through a lot of public and political education. But when one says that this specific song is the one that causes a lot of farm owners to be killed, it will require a lot of proof and evidence so that when they present their case in court, those that are presiding over the case should be convinced that indeed, when this song was sung, a lot of people were killed. At the same time, you have got a lot of farm killings that are not necessitated by the singing of the song. You have got farm murders that are necessitated by exploitation, by evictions, and ill treatment of farmers, which should be treated as a separate matter. But I think if indeed there is sufficient proof to prove that when this song is sung, then people take guns or whatever weapon they have to go and kill, it should actually be proven in court. But of more importance is that I like the fact that thou, Mr. Malema, is able to prove that this song has got nothing to do with farm killings. He is still remorseful, and he is openly saying to the court that if it is declared by the court of law, then they can still not sing the song. So I see someone who is defending what he does, but also at the same time, someone who's reconciliatory. And I would also love to see that kind of a spirit emanating from all of us, because at the end of the day, we are all South Africans. We have to live together in harmony, but we must be able to reconcile our differences and move forward hand in hand.
Mr. Ndou, just before I let you go, I want to come back to the issue of interpretation here that has been brought up in this case again. Julius Malema arguing that if you translate the phrase literally, then you lose the meaning. And it takes me back to the comments that were made by the then Secretary General of the ANC, Julius Malema, when he was before a hearing on this very same issue. And he also lambasted the direct translation of these lyrics, saying that when you do that, you then are actually causing division because, the literal meaning is vulgarized. That's a quote, unquote, that Mr. Mantashe used at the time. So this issue of language and translations, how big an issue do you think that is?
Well, I think it's important, firstly, for all of us as South Africans to recognize all the language that we have in South Africa and to a certain extent try to understand them and speak them. But also very importantly, I think it's important also when something is being said or sung, it's important to go out and try to understand the context within which the song is sung and what are the meanings of certain things. We've got a lot of people, Kathy, who would follow the lyrics and sing a song for a very, very long time in the churches, in political organizations, and in many other places, not understanding the meaning or the actual meaning of the song. And I think if one found him or herself aggrieved or not understanding properly the context within which the song is sung, it's much better to ask rather than to start pointing fingers.
All right, let's leave it there for this evening. Political analyst Levy Ndou.